Now it's on? Ooh. The green light's a big tell. Hi, everybody you've braved the elements to come. I appreciate that. As you are welcome here. We acknowledge we are on the lands that have been used by indigenous people for millennia, and many, many tribes have used the Helena Valley primarily as a pass-through. All the tribes that remain here have used it, so we honor them. I would do a chalice lighting. Sam, somebody was gonna come up and light the chalice? We gather at this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this as a beacon of hope, a sign of our search for truth and meaning, and in celebration of the life we share together. If the new members would come up, I think that's what we've got as first.
Actually, new members can sit in the pews a few more minutes because I have an on-ramp to read before you come, and then we'll invite you up.
Can I leave all this stuff here?
So this is kind of a big day for us to welcome new members, and it always makes me excited. And this has been in the works now for months, and we have people that want to be here and be part of our congregation. It delights me, no small amount. So I found these words of welcome I wanted to share with you. Here in this church, human beings have gathered for centuries, seeking a higher purpose and deeper life than they could find alone. We are grateful today for each one of you, that you have found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment to this faith community. We hope that as a member of this church, you will allow yourselves to know and be known, to minister and be ministered unto, to love and to be loved by this congregation. We never really know what combination of fate and friendship and good luck it is that brings certain people together in this world for any purpose. But we believe that membership in the church calls each of us here to celebrate the fate that has drawn us together and to regard each other, each one a spiritual friend and a potential teacher, even of occasional hard lessons. The relationships we form in our church are based on needs of the soul, needs that tender each one of us vulnerable and therefore reliant on each other's grace and goodness and generosity of spirit. As members of this church, we pledge to be guardians of each other's spirits, to respect the ultimate privacy of each one's human struggle, and to believe in each one's inherent dignity. And finally, as members of this congregation, we know that we can always rely on the wisdom of our covenant, which reminds us of the true purpose in being together. So now I'd like to invite our new members to come forward. And Mackenzie's going to help us with the microphone and stuff like that. And so I know these are familiar faces, but this is the opportunity for our new members to introduce themselves to you all in a formal way.
My name is Margaret Menace. Did you want more information, or is that good enough? Do you want more information?
A little bit more.
Oh, okay. Well, by God, I got here on time this morning. Yeah, and bathed and showered and everything. So, just to say that the first time I came to a Friday coffee, I was like, oh my God, this is good. I can do this. And because I'm always kind of wandering around looking for serious, honest people, and not that we're all terribly serious, but nonetheless, I'm just delighted to be among you all. I feel very privileged.
My formal title is Reverend Jean Sweet. My name is Jean, and I am so grateful to be invited to become a part of you. I am a retired spiritual director of a church here in town, the Helena Church of Conscious Living. And what really attracts me to here is community, which I believe in. And I have felt that here very honestly, I like those words, and sincerely, and not that seriously, no. So I'm just really grateful to be invited, and I look forward to getting to know everyone better. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm Christina Barbacciano, and my mother, Mary Barbacciano, is also going to become a member, but she lives in Butte, and the road was beyond her interest in traveling this morning. So I am, we just moved here, my family and I just moved here in June, and our family household is made up of my husband, Alex, my daughter, Nadia, who's 15, and my son, Ezra, who is 19, and my mother-in-law, Marlene, who is a very young 90. And we all live together. I am the executive director at the Holter Museum of Art, and I've loved being here in Helena. I'm a lifelong UU, so anytime I'm anywhere near a UU church, I always join, and it's an important part of my, I'm very much a wanderer, so it's one of the few places that I feel like I can make roots. And my mother would like to say that she is ecstatic to have found a spiritual home as well. She's also been a UU for a long time, and she'll attend when the roads get better.
Thank you. So I have some questions, too, to be exact. I have some questions for the three of you. Two questions, very simple.
We have to raise our hand.
So will you walk together with us, sharing the joys and responsibilities of membership?
I will.
Yeah. Will you accept the responsibilities inherent in the life that encompasses the 7 principles, and please to affirm and promote them?
Yes.
That's it. Easy questions?
Now will you bring Sunday treats on the first Sunday of the month?
You take over the, yeah, right, no. So look in your order of service and you'll see the welcoming words. And I'd like us all to please say them together. I think they're pretty much there, that, yeah.
I'm gonna make sure.
Mackenzie will lead us.
Will the congregation please rise and join together with our newest church, if you are willing and able? In the bonds of friendship and love, we unite
to cultivate reverence, to permit
spiritual growth and ethical commitment, to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passage, and to honor the holiness at the heart of being.
You are part of us, and we Thank you. You may be seated. No, not you. Wait. Yeah. So Mackenzie has some little gifts for you as a memento of this day. This is the UU handbook that's very well circulated in this church. It's a really great, pithy introduction to the Unitarian Universalist fellowship. And it's a traditional gift for our new members, even if they already have copies. And the other part of our ceremony, which will occur after we conclude this service, is the signing of the book. And that's the official, you have become a member once your signature is in that book, and we'll do that later. Thank you.
If you can turn to pages 2 and 3 in the Open Your Heart songbook, written by our own Judy Fell. I can't believe that we have the singer-songwriter who did this entire book. What a joy. Anyway, it's pages 2 and 3. Welcome to the circle. Okay, I was trying to find a reading that supported the message in Karen Armstrong's book, Sacred Nature, and I found Beloved Presence, which is 607 in the Singing the Living Tradition. And if the congregation can say the words in italics, I think it's a reading that is also a response. Beloved presence. Cloak yourself in 1,000 ways, still shall I know you, my beloved. Veil yourself with every enchantment, and yet I shall feel you, presence, most dear, close, and intimate. I shall salute you in the springing of cypresses, and in the sheen of lakes, the laughter of fountains. I shall surely see you in tumbling clouds, in brightly embroidered meadows. O beloved presence, more beautiful than all the stars together. I trace your face in ivy that climbs, in clusters of grapes, in morning flaming the mountains, in the clear arc of sky. You gladden the whole earth and make every heart great. You are the breathing of the world. Okay, joys and concerns is our next thing to do, and I can pass the microphone if anyone has joys and concerns they wish to share with the congregation.
Not a joy or concern, but we have a new person, Elaine Dallas, sending out the announcements. In my case, it went straight into my spam folder. So if you didn't get the announcements or the call for the announcements, go to your spam folder and click where it says not spam, and you only have to do it once. Yes, Cole?
A joy to share. I got notification this week that I was accepted into the 2024 Montana Clay Tour. Yeah. So I'm going to be at George McCauley's house on 5th Avenue come this summer when that rolls around. So now it's time to get in the studio, make some pots.
Okay, Carolyn?
I just want to say it was a joy to come to that reading that you just introduced us to, and urge everyone to take a hymnal home and read. The readings are so good in the back of this book.
Ditto. Cass?
So, as I've spoken of in earlier services in the last week or two, that my friend Bill Allison had died on Christmas Day, and yesterday was his memorial service, and it was at the Baptist Church. And I have to admit, I was a little bit, I can't think of exactly the right word here, but a little apprehensive, that's it, about going to an evangelical church and thinking that Bill, who was a Buddhist, would be showered with Christian sayings. And as it turned out, it was the sweetest service, and the pastor managed to limit his Jesus is our Savior remarks till the very end, and he only talked about it for about 5 minutes. So in the big picture, it was very balanced. And getting to see Bill's close friends and visit with them, and I want to mention the Baptists put on quite a spread for the after hour, very generous and very kind. And I have to say, some of my preconceptions about what goes on in the world of Christian religion got kicked to the side. So I was very moved by the whole day, and as we continue to grieve for our lost Bill, that was a kind of a nice big brick in the memory bank.
Thank you. Anybody else? I will add relative to the Baptists, if anyone hasn't read Jimmy Carter's book called America's Endangered Values, I highly recommend it. In it, he talks about how he and Rosalind, when the Baptists started using the church to denigrate and subordinate women, he and Rosalind had to quit the Baptist church that they had been raised in for a long time and started another one because they were so unable to adjust to the new Christian reality that the Baptist church was evidencing. So again, it was just a beautiful book, and I learned a lot about the Baptists in that book. But anyway, okay, so offerings. Somebody, Sam and Mara and Harrison. Your services are requested. Thank you for what a beautiful talk. Give it to the person on the end over here. Thank you for your gifts of this day and for the gifts of action that make this community possible. If you are visiting, please remain our guest. Your presence is your gift to us. And as we're done, if you would sing "Thank You for Your Loving Hands" from the Open Your Heart Songbook. Thank you for your loving hands, your loving heart, your loving ways. Thank you for the gifts you bring into the world each day. And if you ever doubt yourself, remember us who know you well. We know all the gifts you bring into the world each day. So thank you for your loving hands, your loving heart, your loving ways. Thank you for the gifts you bring into the world each day. And now we have another hymn, "For the Beauty of the Earth," which is in the Singing the Living Tradition, and it's hymn number 21. And if you can, stand, and if that's uncomfortable for you, please remain seated. Thank you, cantors.
Source
We have a story for all ages, so anyone who would like to come up, please come up and I will read this and try and show the pictures around. Yay. Okay, we have, it's called Where Do Rivers Go, Mama? And I might say Mom as I'm reading because I'm just more comfortable with that.
Do you want me to hold your mic?
I beg your pardon?
Do you want me to hold your mic?
Sure.
Sorry.
Whack. Yeah, I paid good money for these teeth. A little girl and her mother are out in the spring rain. They walk along a gurgling mountain stream. As the water hurries by, the little girl wonders, walking along the stream, where do rivers go, Mama? Rivers go where the water takes them. Gravity, the force that pulls everything downward, keeps water on a downhill path. Rivers can spill over a steep mountain slope, or they can move slowly, curving like a snake through flat landscapes like the Helena Valley. Rivers are like branches on a tree, getting bigger the closer they get to the trunk. Small creeks flow into bubbling brooks that empty into gentle streams that move the mighty rivers that dump into lakes and oceans. And that's a pretty cool picture. So Helena Valley, as you know, is in the Missouri River drainage. And does anybody know where that goes?
Where does the Missouri River go?
Yeah, where does the Missouri River go? Anybody know? Goes down to ultimately, Correct. I knew you'd know. Rivers are just one way water is stored and moved. It is in the air over the earth, in lakes and oceans, and in the ground under our feet. Water is everywhere. Does anybody know why the earth is called the blue planet?
Because there's lots of water.
That's right, there's water everywhere. Most of the surface of the earth is covered by water, and when
Even a lot of the percent, even though some parts of our things inside of our body.
yes, and we're mostly water too. I guess that makes sense because we're part of the blue planet. Water can be a gas in the air. It moves with the wind. In its liquid form, water drips as raindrops, runs in pools, rivers, and soaks into the soil. A rainbow, does anybody know what a rainbow really is?
It's rain and sunlight.
Yeah, it's water.
The water droplets in the air separating the sun into this.
That is correct. A rainbow is sun shining onto water droplets, forming the various colors of the rainbow. When it's very cold, like now, water freezes and can be lacy. And what snow?
It's just frozen water.
That's right.
Which is ice.
Which is an ice also.
So snow is made of all these really tiny ice crystals.
Right. And have you ever caught snowflakes on your tongue? That's
Yeah,
pretty
you
cool.
wanna know a really fun fact?
Yeah.
The biggest snowflake in world history fell in Montana.
Ooh, cool. That's very cool. That sounds like a Trivial Pursuits question. In cold places such like Glacier National Park, thick piles of snow turn into sheets of ice that can be as thick as a 10-story building. The weight of the ice causes it to spread and flow, forming rivers of ice called glaciers. This slow-moving frozen water grinds up the rock below, and the icy cold water flows from underneath the glacier and creates a river, a lake, and rivers.
And it might even go all the way to the ocean.
That's right, it might. How old is water? The water you see is as old as the earth. Water that collects in a puddle today was once drunk by dinosaurs. That is just very cool, I think. Water moves around the earth in a cycle that never ends. The sun heats the ocean, the water warms and becomes water vapor in the air. Plants and trees take water out of the ground through their roots and release it into the air as vapor. The vapor forms clouds that are moved by wind. If the air cools, the droplets form in the clouds, and when the droplets get too heavy, they can come down as rain or snow.
So it's just like a wing.
That's right, it's a big cycle that goes around and around. That's right. Moving water can grind up rock along its path, called erosion. Over millions of years, a river can carry it away. The wearing away of rock carves a deep path through the rock. That's like a canyon, huh? It's like, anybody been up to Great Falls? You see Wolf Creek Canyon, you can see all that rock.
I haven't been to Great Falls, but
You've seen canyons? Yeah.
I even seen waterfalls.
Cool. Where does the rock go? The moving water carries the rock's sand and mud, and it goes downstream and then can become a delta. The falling sand and mud build up into a thick pile of new land that's a delta. So that would be like down in New Orleans, where the Mississippi goes. What happens when water soaks into the earth? When water soaks into the earth, it becomes groundwater. This is pretty simple for you guys. You guys already know most of this stuff. Pardon?
Plants drink the groundwater.
That's right. Plants can drink the groundwater if their roots can go down far enough. Trees drink the groundwater, and humans drink the groundwater too. We dig wells.
Worms do.
And worms do, right. Water in underground rocks is called groundwater. And the rock layers that contain a lot of groundwater are called aquifers. As it turns out, there's more water underground than there is in all the Earth's lakes. Can I drink this water, Mom?
Yes.
Well, no.
If it got filtered.
If it's filtered, that's exactly right. Just like all animals and plants, you need water to live, but you should only drink filtered water. Even if a stream is cold and clear, tiny creatures you can't see live in the water and can make you very sick. You probably already know this from camping. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to get that Giardia. Wires, this is too much. Yeah, we're going to skip that part. Ah! The long and short of it is that the water creates an endless cycle around the earth, which, as you guys said, was a ring, and we have to be very careful of it because the water stays around forever. And fertilizer on a field or a garden can seep into groundwater and lakes and cause large amounts of algae to grow and fish to die. And in cities and factories, cars can put chemicals in the air, and when that falls down on our trees, they don't like it. A delicate balance exists between the water in the air, on the earth's surface, and underground. The little girl smiled at her mother and said, "Wow, Mom, it's amazing how many places rivers go. I want to be good to the earth so our water can be clean and here forever." Huh. That's why you don't toss a bottle or a Kleenex or anything in the river, right? Yeah. Okay, that's all we got. As you journey, now the main course. I had envisioned this kind of as a book report on Karen Armstrong's book, Sacred Nature. And as I was starting to prepare it, I realized I was appalled at the fact that it's a very dense book written by a comparative theologian, and it's one of those things you can speak for 30 seconds on or 4 hours. So I apologize for the simpleness of my explanation and urge you to pick up the book if you're interested in this. The biggest takeaway, and if you don't know Karen Armstrong, she's a wonderful writer. She's written gobs and gobs of books about various interpretations of God and history around the world. And in this book, she's suggesting that for all of human history, for most of human history, most of humanity around the world has perceived humanity as part of nature and God as not separate from nature, that isn't a separate being on high that created the earth, but is part of the life force that forms the life on this planet. And that as we observe the changes wrought by humanity in this Anthropocene age, i.e. the geologic age of Earth, in which the most prominent feature is change wrought by humanity in our extraction and poisoning of the earth, that if we could return to this understanding of not God gave the earth to humanity to dominate, but rather God and humanity are all part of the same life force, and we need to take pretty good care of it or we won't be here next time around. Sometimes people say, I want to save the planet. My own view is the planet doesn't need saving. The planet has had a number of phases in its existence, and it'll be just fine. It's just that we won't be on it anymore. The sixth mass extinction that we are creating will include us, but the cockroaches will be fine. The cockroaches and beetles. She starts the book with this beautiful reading that was apparently written on the western wall of a Chinese scholar, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name. I believe it's a man, so I would say his name. And the walls of his study were covered with inscriptions and truths and pithy sayings that he believed in, and this one is called the Western inscription simply because it was on his western wall. And it reads, "Heaven is my father, and earth is my mother, and even such a small creature as I finds an intimate place in their midst. Therefore, that which fills the universe I regard as my body, and that which directs the universe I consider as my nature. All people are my brothers and sisters, and all the things in nature are my companion." I just thought that was cool. So, when I started preparing for this, I thought I better write my notes out, and I got a whole page written single-spaced and realized I was still in the introduction. Realized that probably wasn't gonna work very well. In any event, I'll try to pull back enough to summarize, and I apologize, as I say in advance, for misunderstanding her concepts. Some of the concepts, like kenosis and ecstasis, are way complicated, and I don't really understand them very well, but I'll try. Her main point it talks a bit about the historical understanding of truth being as composed of two parts, like our brains have two hemispheres, right? We have the right brain, which handles the emotions and love and the religious faith, the things that can't be proven, and then that was the right brain. And the left brain, that's the more logical neocortex, how we understand the scientific paradigm and things of that nature. And in Western society, at least, we have come to rely almost exclusively on our left brain. And some people would say, well, the mythos is fiction and we may disregard it. Her point is that's, her belief is that that's an inadequate explanation for reality and not really a natural way for us to understand reality. And that the more ancient way of understanding that reality can best be understood using both hemispheres of the brain, that we should cultivate that. That the Western modern way of thinking is more closely aligned with the notion that, you know, God, whatever God there is, gave the earth for us to dominate and use for our own purposes, that humanity was created in God's image, and therefore we get to run the place and do whatever we want with it, including eating animals. And I was thinking when I finished reading this that I really ought to become a vegetarian, but it's going to be tough. We must return to the ancient understanding, she says, that humans are not separate from or above nature, but are a part of it, and to act like it. She says this understanding is best looked at by going back to the axial age, apparently, which was 900 to 200 BCE throughout the world. During this period, the most important and durable of our understandings of ways of explaining reality and God were developed during this period. That was the period of, in China and Japan, Confucianism and Taoism, Zen Buddhism, Hinduism in India, and then the rise of Jewish thought in the Middle East, and then of course the most recent one would have been Muhammad. As time went on in the 17th century, Jesuit missionaries traveled to China with Christianity and science in tow to try and teach that, but the Chinese didn't accept that approach, and it made no sense to them because in their view it completely ignored qi, which is the life force that flows through all of us. I hate to use a not crass example, but pop example perhaps. It does sound a lot like the force from Star Wars, and I don't think that's an accident. I think those writers did a fair amount of study of the myths that have sustained us around the world, and it's not an accident. So in Chinese thought, which came up that was developed during this axial age, there's absolutely no creation story, because qi is the life force that always has been, always will be, and so God is not a separate being, it is being. It's called the Wanwu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I think so. The point being that the separateness of humanity and or God, it's just not a concept that makes sense in that cosmology. Taoism adopted that general approach, Tao being a process that can't be defined, that it's weak, but it flows through all of us. And that's not unlike Greek thought also. Nor is it unlike what Jesus said when he said the kingdom of God is within you. If you look at that as a very Greek concept, it's meant literally. In India, the natural world was revealed to the three classes of seers or poets. They lived in a three-tiered universe, earth, sky, and heaven. And again, they perceived the omnipresent power, which also I can't pronounce, and as an active and creative truth, not as separate from nature or humanity, but as an integral part of it. In Japan, also, she says the Zen Buddhists during this pivotal axial age also cultivated the right hemisphere of the brain understanding of sacred nature. A single Buddha nature exists in the things of nature, and it is inseparable from the human self. So rather than a creation story, it's more a matter of the divine has always been there. It is just revealed to us, and that's a bit of the creation. We're not creating it, we're simply perceiving it and revealing it to others. But it has always existed, and it always will exist. How do we recover this perception? She suggests quiet sitting is a good way to do it. The Buddha, of course, became the Buddha by projecting his love outward to all four corners of the planet. And this, of course, is the central message of ecology, the interconnectedness of all things, and is the focus of the seventh principle of our faith. She also points out that we may perceive quiet sitting, a yoga sitting in a cross-legged position quietly with eyes closed, that we misperceive that if we think that person is going inward and understanding the self. In fact, the task is to purge the self of ego so that the rest can be perceived, and you can let the rest of nature and life in you and let the chi flow through you. And she talks a lot about the various forms of rituals and how that satisfies our right brain need for ceremony. And that was also something that drew me to this church. It's the lighting of the chalice and our singing of the songs. I agree with her. I think she's right that there's a human need for that. I always thought the Catholics had a good idea, and sometimes had the best ceremonies of some of the Christian churches with the censer and the smoke and all that stuff. For Muslims, the divine word of God is in the sound of the Quranic text. That may be one of the reasons that Beloved Presence was so beautiful. The sound is, of course, lost in translation, but the sound of the Quranic text evokes sorrow for the pain of human life. And God, to them, was a hidden treasure to be known. The sound of the recitation of the Quranic texts reveals to us the sorrow of humanity and then compels our compassion to help others. The world and everything in it becomes manifest in the breath of reading the Quranic text. I thought that was kind of cool. She talks a lot about animal sacrifice. I am sometimes bothered by the Christian story, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but of the God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. I thought, wow, if I were a kid, that would really make me nervous. Oh, if my parents really loved me, they'd kill me. But that's an overly simplistic view on my part. and I learned that that kind of sacrifice is a type of ecstasis, I think was the way you pronounce it, but is central to myths around the world in different ways. It is satisfied by animal sacrifices, which have been common all around the world, ritualized sacrifices being very elaborate, and that through that sacrifice, the sacrificial animal, or as a symbolic sacrifice, whatever the item is, that changes the nature of the sacrificial creature to be holy or divine. So I was surprised by that and realized that my own understanding of the Christian story was too simplistic. So that's something that is interesting if you want to do some more reading in comparative theology. Kenosis was a term that she uses a lot. And I also misunderstood Buddhism for a long time. Some descriptions of it almost sound like it's a passivity, that you have to purge yourself, and that always kind of bugged me. I thought, well, if we're supposed to be moved by compassion to make the world a better place and ease the suffering of others, that doesn't sound like purging of the self. Sometimes in Western society, you have to be kind of assertive to make change happen. And that too was a overly simplistic reading of the Buddhist understanding. And so it reminded me of Valerie's saying that being a pacifist does not mean that you are passive. It may mean that you are an active part of the change that is necessary to create a more peaceful earth. The purging of the ego being necessary for you to get rid of all the stuff in your head so that you can allow the suffering of the world through, so that you can be moved to make it better. And so those are some more complicated notions that are interesting, if you're interested in comparative theology. She points out that St. Paul exhorted others to be like Jesus and empty their minds of ego to become love and serve others. And Elaine Pagels is an expert that you may have heard of, a theologian very prominent in the Gnostic Gospels, the Nag Hammadi texts, the early Christian church, and her books are really interesting. I was intrigued to read how different the early Christians really were. I mean, they remained poor. The Roman priests, of course, required payment to pray for somebody, but the Christians didn't. They really did turn the other cheek, and they really did share, if they had a bowl of gruel, they really did share it with others. It's an interesting point that can be lost by church doctrine today, I think. And so again, Elaine Pagels is a good writer, and she does a good job of explaining some of the early Christian behaviors, and really I think is someone to follow up with if you're interested in early Christianity. She also points out that Islam does mean surrender, and the kneeling and bowing of the head and praying to Mecca 5 times a day and the recitation of the Quranic text is a way of understanding humility and submission to God. Each of her chapters is ended with a short section called The Way Forward, in which she attempts to discuss ways we might apply these concepts to change our behavior toward the planet. And one of the key points that she raises is it's not a bad thing to maybe in the morning and maybe before you go to bed, remind yourselves how little we know and how often our desires focus on ourselves and are selfish. I've had discussions with some scientists and engineers, worked with engineers for a long, long time, and one of them was saying how religion's a crutch and they don't need it because the science explains everything. And I just thought, man, that is so arrogant. Usually when you talk to a scientist, they're not of the belief that science and religion are incompatible as separate explanations for the universe. Science can explain how things happen, but it, of course, can't answer why. You know, yes, there's gravity. Why is it, you know, and I remember a Nova science show about cosmology and astronomy and planets and all the stuff we're learning through the James Webb Telescope. And all of the scientists they interviewed, none of them had any problem with saying, yeah, I believe in God and I don't see that as a conflict, it's just different. The Islam, I think, did the best, better than Christianity, to accept science and saw the natural laws of science, which we would call science, as Allah's prime miracle. I mean, who else but God could have come up with something so brilliant? So rather than see them as competing systems, Islam sort of sees science as proof of God, which I think is pretty cool. She talks about the golden rule, about how Confucius relied on it heavily. So it's obviously not a new concept. So treating others as you would like to be treated makes some sense. She talks about ahimsa, which I will tell you that if you want to know what that means, you should read chapter 9 of her book. It is central to apparently Indian traditions and means harmlessness. I mean, you can't harm anything. One of the ancient Hindu scholars was he couldn't walk on the grass. He always stayed on something because he was afraid he would step on a worm or something. Again, she emphasizes that we should feel empathy and compassion for all creatures and the planet, and start reforming our behavior if we want to be around it for a while. Then she talks about ecstasis, which is stepping outside of our ego, and again, I will refer you to her book because it's way over my head. In closing, I think it was a good book. I recommend it. They do have it at the library, even though last time I tried to pick it up so I could at least show people the book. It wasn't shelved where it was supposed to be, so I couldn't find it, so I just have it on my Kindle. Its central point is we need to start changing our ways, reforming our understandings of humanity's place on the planet, and that once we understand the interconnectedness of all things, we really can't continue our destruction of our habitat. And also to recall that mythos and logos are really two parts of one whole, and that we should not be rejecting things that we can't explain, but rather incorporating them as we can in our understandings. And I will give up at that point. And you're welcome. And anyway, Karen Armstrong. I encourage you to read both Karen Armstrong and Elaine Pagels. Are great writers, and it's fun to read them. And as we enter into the cold season, It's not a bad thing to be reading some of these difficult texts because we have lots of time inside. Now, where am I? Oh, silent meditation. And we can send joy, like Judy's song says, we send love out to the four corners of the universe and up and down. Okay, closing hymn song. Do we have time? Should you guys want to do the closing song or? Yes. Yeah, it is a beautiful song. All Creatures of the Earth and Sky is number 203. You want 3 verses? Yes, just 3 verses, please, because otherwise we'll freeze. Our cars will freeze. It's 203 and singing the living tradition. Thank you, cantors, sparing you the pain and sorrow of hearing me sing. Sam, do you want to, where did Sam go? Do you want to come extinguish the chalice since you lit it? All together, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Are there any announcements? Yes. That's kind of a little bit too Fallon for me, but
Sorry about that. She's funny. I just wanted to point out, as I'm sure most of you are quite aware, next week is our annual meeting, and that's a big deal in this fellowship, mainly because we have a big potluck. And not only that, we elect our new board of, not all of them, our board of directors. We have 4 candidates that will need to be affirmed next week. And then the really big wahoo is we discuss our budget. And this week, today or tomorrow, we'll send out the draft budget so you'll have a chance to look it over. And if you have questions, we'll discuss them in public next week and then affirm our budget, which will pretty much determine what kind of things we get to do this year. So it's pretty important. Did I mention potluck?
And it's at 11:30, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, right.
Not a normal potluck time.
Yeah, normally our potlucks are at 4:30. Next week it'll be 11:30, and this is kind of a special month. We'll have another potluck on the 28th because we are committed to having potlucks on the last Sunday of the month, so it'll be 2 in a row.
Well, we should be committed, one of the two.
We need to outdo those Baptists, right?
Shouldn't be too hard.
I just have a quick announcement. My daughter Nadia is doing a performance this afternoon at the Holter Museum of Art. She's trying to raise funds to go to Europe for 3 weeks this summer with a traveling choir, and she's really excited. Normally, my husband and I would be able to help her quite a bit financially, but with my son's medical stuff, she's kind of on her own. So I gave her the conversation early on this fall of like, if this is something you want to do, you're going to have to figure out how to make it happen. So she did just that because she is always up for a challenge. So today at 4:30, it's free. There'll be a pass the hat sort of thing, some goodies that she's been baking all weekend, and some art, all out. And of course, the weather has hit, so she's a little bit worried that there's only going to be 5 people in the audience. But if you can make it, it'll be about an hour, and she sure would appreciate some smiling faces in the audience.
Any other announcements today? See, then this is the end of the recording, typically, so then we can share some private joys and concerns that you might not have